Russia, Russia, Russia.
Fight for Ukraine. New world order.
All right, time to carry some water for Putin.
Yay.
Because we're reporting from RT.com. I don't know why.
Oh, good.
Come on, what are we doing?
We used to report way more from RT.
I know. It was the fun outlet.
It's only after, it used to be the fun place to get news. Now it's like banned.
Yeah, well, it's because of stories like this, apparently, and it's biblical.
It's got to be biblical.
Again, RT headline here. Medvedev issues apocalyptic warning to West over Ukraine.
Another one. By the way, did you notice that the Queen died like 3 days after Medvedev threatened the Queen?
Yeah, maybe it was a metaphorical metaphorical nuke went over the UK and took her out.
Was it?
Or I guess she was in Scotland,
nukes.
but still.
I think it was Medvedev just straight up threatened the Queen. Not even like it was like a personal threat. And then the next week she's gone. So I don't know, man. I'm just saying the timing of these things is too much sometimes.
Yeah, maybe they're meant to kind of kill off some of the older ruler types here. This seems to be going both directions. But here's what the article says from RT. Great reset. Western half-wits from silly think tanks, these aren't quotes, by the way, are leading their countries down the road of nuclear Armageddon with their hybrid war against Moscow, former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev wrote on his Telegram channel on Tuesday. Endlessly funneling weapons and support to Ukraine while pretending not to be directly involved in the conflict will not work, added the deputy chair of the Russian Security Council. The quote-unquote security guarantees proposal unveiled by Kyiv on Tuesday was, quote, really a prologue to the Third World War, end quote, said Medvedev, calling it a, quote, hysterical appeal, end quote, to Western countries engaged in a proxy war against Russia. If the West continues its, quote, unrestrained pumping of the Kyiv regime with the most dangerous types of weapons, end quote, Russia's military campaign will move to the next level where, quote, visible boundaries and potential predictability of actions by the parties to the conflict, end quote, will be erased and the conflict will take on a life of its own, as wars always do, Medvedev argued. I can't tell what part Medvedev said and what part RT is paraphrasing as part of the propaganda summation. It's all kind of seamless here.
There's a couple interesting things. Did you read the subtext, the subheadline rather? Yeah. It's
well, I didn't read it out loud. I'll say it out loud, which is the former Russian president.
Do it out loud.
Yeah, the former Russian president used a Book of Revelation quote to comment on Kyiv security treaty demands. So yeah, it's
right. So biblical. Again, going to the biblical talk, the biblical language, which we've seen repeatedly. I mean, there's again the kind of the Russian throwback of their government can still talk like this. However, it is the former president. Now, I do not recall if Medvedev actually holds any office right now, but he is the former president, which I think gives him a little bit more freedom to talk like this. Mm-hmm. You know, it's kind of like Trump.
Part of his
Trump
job,
would
probably.
say some crazy stuff.
Part of his job to not, become kind of a rogue guy that has to hide somewhere in NATO.
Well, yeah, well, he can say the things that like Putin can't say, because if Putin says it, then it's like a direct political threat, geopolitical threat. Yeah. But Medvedev, just the former president, he can say all this crazy stuff. Yeah. Which makes good headlines.
Let's get to the specifics here. Quote, and this is again back to Medvedev's quote here. And then the Western nations will not be able to sit in their clean homes, laughing at how they carefully weaken Russia by proxy. Everything will be on fire around them. Their people will harvest their grief in full. The land will be on fire and the concrete will melt, end quote, Medvedev wrote before citing a Bible verse from Revelation 9:18. Do you know what it says in Revelation 9:18, Basil?
Let's hear it.
I'll read from the English Standard. Let's just do King Bible because it's more dramatic. By these three was the third part of men killed, by the fire and by the smoke and by the brimstone, which issued out from their mouths or out of their mouths. Yes, it's a part about a third of mankind being killed. Fire, smoke, sulfur.
Yeah. There you go. They're
pretty intense.
full on Armageddon talk from Medvedev there.
A little bit more here. Quote, yet still the narrow-minded politicians and their silly think tanks thoughtfully twirling a glass of wine in their hands. Paints quite the
He's
picture.
painting such a
Talk about how they can deal with us without entering into a direct war. Dual fools with a classical education. I changed the word.
Are you censoring some of these?
Yeah, I'm just trying to be, I don't want to say those, those words.
All right.
Insulting.
We are sure. The word is dull, by the way.
Dull fool.
Dull. What?
I said dull fool.
You said dual.
Yeah,
dual fools.
All right. Well, anyway, there you go. This is Medvedev getting biblical and plays right into so many things.
I mean, it's really interesting to hear how the ex-president talks to the public, because that's the big problem right now. Russia, Ukraine just did that big switcheroonski the last week or whatever, where they took back a bunch of land. You remember for like a month, they were saying they were going to take back the southern region.
Yeah.
They kept saying they were talking about it for a month. And then at the last second, they didn't touch the southern region. They came up north and took the northern region. So it seems, everybody, all the analysts talking about it are like, whoa, brilliant switcheroo from Ukraine. But it's obvious that okay, why are you telling Putin your plans a month in advance? Okay, of course, you are just giving him a lot of warning about what you're going to do. This is kind of a weird thing that you're doing. They made it a big PR move. And allegedly, as the reporting goes, which I'm really starting to be skeptical of, but the reporting is that Putin fell for it and sent all of his most seasoned troops to the south to protect it from Ukraine. And everybody, all the troops he left up north were the not so seasoned troops, this sort of B team. And there's all these stories of them, the Russians dropping their rifles and running away and stealing bicycles to escape the Ukrainians coming back for their land. Just really theatrical reporting on the whole thing.
Yeah.
And this is like mainstream New York Times, Washington Post reporting. And so, and in addition to those analyses, they're saying, oh, well, Putin's embarrassed. He's embarrassed and he's losing the war.
Retreating.
Yeah. The generals are mad. The politicians are mad in Russia. Everybody's mad. Putin's going to bring this to all out war, but he's going to have a problem because the Russian people, it's politically, dangerous or suicide for him to do all out war instead of what he's been calling a special operation. Mm-hmm. Just going to go kill the Nazis. Don't worry, everybody. This is not all out war. But now, they're saying that he needs to do all out war, or he might. Meanwhile, but it's going to be hard to convince the Russian people that they actually want to do this. And that's where I think Medvedev comes in. Right. Painting this picture of the evil capitalist Westerners swirling their wine.
Well, it's funny. He calls it a proxy war, but this quote itself is part of the proxy war. To say this out loud publicly is part of, you can say saber rattling, but really it's a proxy war. It's kind of a showmanship of like, hey, if we get into a physical altercation, you know who's got some gnarly weapons. It's the Russians.
Well, it's not a proxy for Russia. Russia, they're in it directly. It's a proxy war for us because we're.
Well, I'm saying it's instigating or at least perpetuating this proxy war. It's words.
Well, yeah. Well, what they keep saying is they want to make it actual all-out war with the West.
I know.
Yeah.
But that's they always say that.
Well, words. Yeah, I don't know. Words isn't proxy war, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. He's not in the government, and allegedly, the far right in the Russian political spectrum are just insisting to start sending nukes. They are just so ready. And I think that's reflected in this apocalyptic language and non-politicians freely talking about nuking the world into oblivion. Sorry, didn't mean to go into the whole analysis there because there's more important things to talk about. Heading over to Newsweek here. Newsweek.com. This was hilarious. I grabbed the archived version because when I first saw this story, it had a fun typo in the headline. They have since fixed it. Good job, Newsweek. Took you 2 days, but okay. Newsweek.com. Putin's key man in the Arctic found dead after falling overboard.
Hey, it's published
Arctic.
at 4:33 p.m.
Yeah, 4:33 p.m. on the 12th. And I'm Arctic, A-R-T-I-C, not Arctic, Arctic.
Yeah.
Newsweek.
Is it
Come on,
Antarctic?
Newsweek. I wish. I wish it was the Antarctic, but no, just the Arctic, just regular old Arctic.
Arctic.
The death of a Russian energy executive over the weekend adds to a list of mysterious deaths of high-powered national businessmen since prior to February 24th invasion of Ukraine. Ivan Pechorin, 39, managing director of the Corporation for Development of the Far East and the Arctic, reportedly fell off a boat at full speed and died Saturday near Russky Island in the Sea of Japan in Primorsky Krai, Russia, near Vladivostok.
That's like 007, straight 007 type of stuff.
Right? And they don't mention the kind of boat
It was a yacht.
that he was on. I'm imagining
It was a yacht.
like a cigarette boat, like a cigarette runner, a go fast boat, you know?
As he was trying to escape, it wasn't on the big cruiser or like a yacht or something. He's trying to get out, so he gets on one of those escape boats.
It says at full speed, you know,
That's true,
at full
yeah.
speed. You got to be going pretty dang fast to die of falling off the boat. But who knows? They don't tell us. But yeah, I was imagining or maybe one of those fancy wooden boats from James Bond through the Venetian canals or something. I don't know. Pechorin worked under Russian President Vladimir Putin, according to the Russian publication Okay, let me try this again. Komsomolskaya Pravda, modernizing aviation in the eastern Russia while developing resources in the Arctic in light of heavy sanctions. So he's an oil man.
Yeah.
Pechorin's last public appearance reportedly occurred at the Eastern Economic Forum, held from September 5th to 8th in Vladivostok. The Daily Mail reported that Pechorin spoke during a session called, quote, "Everyone has their own route, the logistics of a changed world." His death follows that of the corporation's former CEO. Keep in mind, he is the second CEO to die in the last 6 months. Igor Nosov, 43, who reportedly died suddenly from a stroke in February. Now this is where it gets fun, Gons. So we've got the guy falling off the boat. We got the guy suddenly from a stroke. You know, that happens. On September 1st, Ravil Maganov, 67, an oil tycoon, another oil guy, and former head of Russia's second largest oil company, Lukoil, reportedly fell to his death from a 6th-floor window of a Moscow hospital. Unconfirmed reports allege that Maganov was beaten and thrown out of a window. Okay.
Wow.
Honestly,
some more 007 stuff.
You honestly didn't even have to write that last part. You didn't have to mention it.
It's a quote. It's quoted. Beaten is quoted, and thrown out of a window is also quoted. It's a direct quote from Maganov.
Unconfirmed reports. Yes. So you've got falling off a boat. This guy fell out of the hospital window. He was already in the hospital. And quote unquote fell out the window. The oil tycoon had previously expressed his opposition to the invasion of Ukraine. Lukoil, meanwhile, said his death came, quote, after a serious illness. Yeah, he had a serious illness and then fell out the window of the hospital. Whoops. Other similar deaths have occurred over the years. Now, they say years, but they just go back to December of 2021.
Years ago.
Not that long ago.
Well, years ago in our current timeline. I mean,
that's true.
Yegor
Prozvernin, founder of nationalist website Sputnik and Pogrom, fell out of a residential building in Moscow and died. Another window problem. Yo, Russia. Get some bars on the windows, guys. You can't have all your very important...
Just have nets all over, covering the lower
drones.
30 feet. Yeah.
You can have a set of drones on the top of every building.
They come down and catch you.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
All of your very important oligarchs keep falling out of windows. A similar incident occurred in October that year, 2 months earlier.
In 2021, yeah. So a year ago.
When a Russian diplomat was found dead after a fall from a window at the Russian embassy in Berlin.
I'm sorry we are laughing at such tragedy.
All over the world.
But yes, when it's written like this, the absurdity is out of control.
Of course. Russia posts English guns. We're allowed to laugh at Russian oligarchs being assassinated.
Yes,
on YouTube.
Look at them die.
We officially cannot be banned for promoting violence against Russians. Apparently, sickeningly. That is the state of the social media stuff. Russia posts English reported that Pekarin's aviation prowess, this is the boatman, included the support of passenger air transportation, modernization of airport infrastructure. Okay, so he's working on airlines and stuff. And it goes into some statements about his death, and everybody's very sad about it. So yeah, some very interesting window related accidents continuing to happen. And who knows what kind of boat it was. Maybe the boat had a window and fell out.
Well, Newsweek, unclear funding, as Harvard EDU's mainstream media document shows. But remember, this was also bought out by Jonathan Davis and Dev Pragad in, I think, 2013.
Yeah.
And there was some
highly suspicious.
Very suspicious. Yeah. There's definitely some intel type of stuff going on.
Yeah, it seems like a Smith-Mundt Modernization Act situation, or perhaps just straight up propaganda outlet. I had to look it up. Defenestration, Gons, is the word for the act of throwing something or someone out of a window.
Good word.
Yeah. So they've got some defenestration experts. They need to employ some anti-defenestration experts in Russia.
That'd be an interesting recruitment tool. You good at throwing people out of windows? Come work for us.
And alternatively, are you good at catching people who are falling out of windows?
It's a whole industry. Yeah. Both sides, fund both sides. In relationship to this Ukraine-China thing, or not Ukraine-Russia thing, is the China thing.
Welcome to Chinese news. It comes from China. China. It's not racist at all, no.
This is from theprint.in, and the headline here is 60 to 80% of Twitter accounts posting on Russia-Ukraine war bots. 90% pro-Ukraine, finds new study, which is not a surprise.
Right. Well, speaking of the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act, for those who need review, was an old law, but was renewed and revised for the modern times by Obama. I believe it was 2013. Yeah. Which basically laid down the rules as to how to legally propagandize, how the American government could legally propagandize to Americans, aka lie to them legally. And part of this was, if you can get a story planted in a foreign newspaper, then you can report on the story in the foreign newspaper legally
Right.
and use it as a source or a pretext for American media. And there was, I don't know if you remember this, Gans. This was, I think we reported, it must have been 2020 that this big study came out. There was something like 700 of Indian online news outlets were straight up used for propaganda. They weren't
Right.
real news outlets.
Yep.
And so whenever you see .in, which
India.
I believe .in is
It
India,
is, it
correct?
is, yeah.
Yeah. So when you see .in, there's an extremely likely chance that you are reading news directly sort of inseminated by the intelligence community of the US government. So keep that in mind when we read this.
Yep. New Delhi, between 60 and 80% of Twitter handles posting on the Ukraine-Russia war may be bot accounts. A research by scholars from the University of Adelaide, Australia, has found. Among other influences, these bot accounts may have been pushing people to flee their homes during the conflict between these two countries, the researchers added. The researchers also found more quote-unquote pro-Ukraine accounts than those that were pro-Russia. The paper titled, I love the title of this very prestigious paper. The paper is titled hashtag I stand with Putin versus hashtag I stand with Ukraine. The interaction of bots and humans in discussion of the Russia-Ukraine war was released on August 20th. The researchers...
Was there an exclamation mark?
Remember,
we saw the
but that was on climate change.
Scientists are allowed to use exclamation marks in their science now.
They're not quite there yet. The hashtag is already a move in another direction, I would say. But yeah, that was on climate change. Not as alarming, I guess, the Ukraine war. The researchers studied 5.2 million posts on Twitter, tweets, retweets, quotes, and replies to tweets shared between February 23rd, the day before, and March 8th this year to understand how bot activity may influence online discussions around the Russia-Ukraine conflict and how bots may influence human emotions. The study's posts contained hashtags like stand with Putin, Bot accounts were identified using Indiana University's Botometer, a software which helps identify a bot account. How can they...
A botometer?
Or botometer.
I want a botometer.
What about Elon? Did Elon use that maybe for his little argument about Twitter? Yeah, go follow that.
I'm going to follow this rabbit hole to the botometer.
Quote, we can say that between 60% and 80% of accounts tweeting the hashtags were studied during the first 2 weeks of the war were bots, as determined using the bot-o-meter. Joshua Watt, one of the researchers, told The Print. According to Watt, it is not clear whether the bots were influencing people to flee Ukraine or Russia. Watt added, quote, we cannot conclude where this is happening due to having no geographical information on the origin of accounts. All we can conclude is that the bot accounts are influencing more discussion surrounding moving, fleeing, going, or staying in a country/location. Yeah, and it just goes into the more pro-Ukraine bots and a little bit more of the details, how bots trigger emotions, which is, of course, the big part of the PSYOP here, is creating that emotional trigger, sometimes better than factual stories or any kind of real story. And the connection here, I don't. Did you have anything on the little rabbit trail, the 30-second rabbit trail?
It's a little app. It's a little browser-based app. You do have to connect your Twitter account, which I did for a second. I am now going to unconnect it. I was just checking my account to see if it thought I was a bot. So you insert somebody's Twitter profile handle, and it gives you a score as to whether it thinks that that account is a bot or not. It's not very. I haven't dug into the
methodology behind it.
The methodology yet. I will kind of pitter around that in a second. I plugged my account in there. I was a little afraid. It rates it 0 to 5. 0 to 5, my account, it rates 0.3, not a bot. So
I'm going to do face like the sun on air here. Let's see. Check user.
I'm going to do
or you can check user, check followers, check friends. Interesting. Well, user, we already know is not a bot. I am a human.
Ooh, uh-oh. At Canary Cry Radio rates 3.2, orange, possible bot activity.
Oh, you got to
that makes sense. We just post about the show, really. So
yeah, that's true. They might think we are a bot. Okay, let's see what face like the sun pulls up here. Anything?
This is a pretty good little tool. I'm going to use this.
Whoa. There's a bunch of crazy names popping up. 0.5 out of 5. What does that mean?
That means not a bot. Not a bot.
Yay. All these other
not likely a bot. Oh, you can check all of your followers.
All of your followers. Yeah, that's what's interesting. I can see who are likely bots or inactive or whatever. Yeah, this is great.
Oh, that's useful. That's useful. Ooh, I found a bot. I found a 100% bot following our account.
Jensen B16, we're on to you. Beep bloop bloop.
We're on to you.
So so this is about
331.
This is about Twitter, allowing these bots, but in connection, the reason why China comes into play is because Vice.com headline here: Twitter whistleblower says 3 was there. 3. I'm losing my mind. Twitter whistleblowers say there was at least one Chinese spy working at the company. Peter Mudge Zatko accused Twitter of employing an undercover Chinese intelligence agent inside the company. Hacking, disinformation, surveillance, cyber is Motherboard's podcast and reporting on what? That's not part of the thing. In testimony to a Senate committee, a Twitter whistleblower said that the Chinese government had placed at least one agent of the country's intelligence agency undercover as a Twitter employee, which is not surprising at all. Former Twitter head of security Peter Zatko made the allegations during his testimony in front of the Senate's Judiciary Committee on Tuesday. Last month, Zatko, who is best known for his hacker handle Mudge, filed a whistleblower complaint accusing Twitter of having a series of grave cybersecurity issues, including insider threats, lack of monitoring, and the presence of an Indian government agent working inside of Twitter. Mm-hmm.
An Indian government agent.
Why does the headline say China and then gets into the... now Zatko said, that's last month. Now Zatko said India was not the only foreign government that put one of its agents inside of Twitter. Quote, I had been told because the corporate security physical security team had been contacted and told that there was at least one agent of the MSS, which is one of China's intelligence services, on the payroll inside Twitter, Mudge said. Quote, while it was disturbing to hear, I and many others had recognized the state of the environment at Twitter. We're really thinking if you're not placing foreign agents inside Twitter, it's because it's very difficult to detect them. It is very valuable to a foreign agent to be inside there. As a foreign intelligence agency, you're most likely not doing your job, end quote. So anyway, there you go. We can read more about it another time.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Of course, they got agents in Twitter. Of course. You wouldn't be a very good, international spy agency
if you couldn't get a job. Yeah, and with an ironic twist, Gizmodo headline: China accuses the NSA of hacking a top university to steal data.
Oh no! Poor China is mad at the
NSA hacking Chinese universities. How dare they?
Oh, it's like our own version of the Confucius Institute.
Yeah. Hey, China, what about your Confucius Institute in 120 universities across America or something?
Yeah, and your constant hacking of the U.S. government. And I mean, of course, the NSA hacks its own citizens. Why wouldn't it hack China?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
anyway, that's fun. That's all. It's all a good time over there at the universities, especially Harvard, man. They got Brian Stelter. I'm sure they're throwing some kind of party where they get to hold wine, in some glass and whisk it around as they talk about the evil Putin Russians.
Yeah. Hopefully, with all these spies and Twitter, there isn't a rash of defenestration events at Twitter headquarters. That would not be a good way to spend their resources.